Then you ask it, why you not a movie star? I didn't want to be a movie star. This the same Negro that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude.
16 years. That's how long Mark Curry waited for an apology that never came. And in January 2024, standing in the middle of LAX with TMZ cameras rolling, he finally said what everyone in the comedy world had been whispering for decades. Steve Harvey is a thief. Not the kind that sneaks through windows at night, but the kind that sits across from you at dinner, laughs at your stories, and then tells them on national television like they came from his own life. The joke in question wasn't just any throwaway punchline. It was Curry's Halloween bit from 1999, a fully fleshed out routine he performed live during the peak of his Hangin' with Mr. Cooper fame. Stories pulled straight from his childhood, his family, his voice. Then, in 2015, Harvey rolled out the exact same concept on Little Big Shots, dressed it up with his signature smile, and the audience ate it up. No credit, no call, no apology. Just silence that stretched 16 years long. Curry told TMZ he wasn't even angry anymore, just disappointed.
I don't think people hated Bernie.
I don't think nobody hated.
If you hated Bernie, you just hated black people.
Steve Harvey, maybe? Yes.
Steve hated Bernie Mac, yes. And then, but I feel like if you hated Bernie Mac, you just hated black people. Like, you didn't like black people.
He said Harvey could keep the material. He'd already moved on and written new jokes. But his tone said something different. You could hear it in the way he paused, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. This wasn't about a stolen joke. It was about stolen identity, stolen respect, and a man who built a billion-dollar empire by taking pieces of everyone around him and repackaging them as his own genius. And if you think this sounds like isolated bitterness from one comedian who couldn't let go, wait until you hear what happened when Katt Williams decided to stop playing nice. Williams doesn't do polite. He doesn't do subtle. And when he sat down with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay in January 2024, he didn't just call out Steve Harvey for stealing jokes. He accused him of stealing an entire career. The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had, Williams said, his voice sharp and unwavering. Now Steve got a sitcom where he's the principal, and he wears a suit.
Why do you think he had differences? Steve Harvey had differences with him. Steve had differences with him when they went on.
Steve was scared of him.
They had differences.
No, they ain't had no difference. Bernie's never gonna come at you any kind of way but a joke. He ain't gonna say nothing.
The audience didn't need a translation. Everyone remembered Hangin' with Mr. Cooper, the ABC hit that ran from 1992 to 1997, where Curry played a high school basketball coach who becomes a substitute teacher and later transitions into working at the school. He wore conservative suits, navigated school politics, and brought heart to primetime. 3 years into that run, The Steve Harvey Show premiered on the WB in 1996, with Harvey playing a former musician turned high school music teacher. Same vibe, same wardrobe, same energy, different name on the checks. You can argue coincidence all day long, but the timing tells a different story. One show is thriving in 1996, another launches the same year with the same premise. To the comedy circuit, it didn't look like inspiration. It looked like replication, with a bigger budget and better PR. Williams didn't stop there. He painted Harvey as someone who wanted to be everything to everyone but couldn't break into film. Someone who wasn't talented enough to become a movie star, so he dominated television instead.
Why did it end?
After the movie, man, that was probably...
Blessing and a curse?
Yeah, the four of us. It was the largest comedy movie ever in history. We split up.
It was a brutal jab, and it landed hard because it echoed something people had quietly wondered for years. Why did Harvey never make it in movies? Was it bad luck, bad timing, or something else? And what he couldn't conquer on screen, did he really make up for by quietly erasing the people who had what he wanted? But this is where the story takes a turn. Because while Curry was busy building his own comeback, touring with Katt Williams on the sold-out Dark Matter tour, where ticket prices jumped from $50 to over $200 once fans realized these weren't just comedy shows but full-blown confessionals, more voices started joining the chorus. And one of those voices belonged to someone who couldn't defend himself anymore, Bernie Mac. The powerhouse of the original Kings of Comedy. The comic who made you laugh so hard your ribs hurt. And according to multiple people who knew him, the man Steve Harvey allegedly tried to destroy behind the scenes.
Can't talk good over KB and look like Mr. Potato Head. There ain't none. You would have to have range. I played a lot of characters, 60 movie roles. I'm not playing Katt Williams in there.
Ed Lover, a longtime friend of Bernie's, came forward in 2024 confirming what many suspected. Bernie told him directly that Steve Harvey had called producers behind his back to steal the Ocean's 11 role, offering to take a lower paycheck just to slide into Bernie's spot. That wasn't professional competition, that was sabotage dressed in a suit and tie. Bernie hinted at this tension in a 2003 GQ interview, saying Harvey was jealous of his success and tried to undermine him in meetings. Harvey denied it, of course, but too many people on that Kings of Comedy tour remember the coldness between them for the story to just disappear. Cedric the Entertainer later admitted publicly that he and Harvey saw things differently, which in Hollywood speak means they couldn't stand each other. And when you look at what happened after the tour, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore.
Even if he had a problem with you, when he had a problem with me, he didn't say phase on nothing. He said, well, you know, we'll see. Because he's that confident.
He like, I'm gonna bring it.
When they started doing the Kings tour, it was Guy Torrey was hosting it. Cedric, DL, Bernie, and Steve was supposed to close it.
Harvey's career exploded into Family Feud, talk shows, best-selling books, and a reported net worth climbing past $200 million. Bernie Mac, on the other hand, battled illness and industry politics until his death in 2008. And only after Bernie was gone did Harvey fully step into the role of the last king standing, the wholesome successor, the guy who could preach about faith and family on daytime television without anyone loud enough to challenge him. Bernie Mac's daughter, Janice McCullough, saw it too.
You wish you would have stayed and kept it together, could have kept it together a couple of...
We tried everything, but you know, dudes felt like they was movie stars. I never saw myself as a movie star. Just let me go be me. So I knew.
In January 2024, right after Katt Williams' interview went nuclear online, she publicly thanked Williams for defending her father's name and calling out the people who had quietly erased his contributions. She didn't name Steve Harvey directly in that post, but everyone reading knew exactly who she meant. And if you think that sounds like Hollywood folklore, wait until you hear what Harvey's own employees had to say about working for him. Gary Owen, a comedian who spent years in Harvey's orbit, finally broke his silence on his podcast. He revealed that his 2-year stint on the Steve Harvey Show barely paid SAG minimum, while a single day on Hip Hop Squares earned him 4 times that amount. Owen didn't sugarcoat it. He described being shoved into a dressing room the size of a closet, no bathroom, no amenities, while influencers and A-list guests got suites with catered meals and full glam teams. It's a strange contradiction for a man who built his brand on uplift, on preaching about faith and hard work and taking care of your people. But behind the curtain, the people who helped build that brand were scraping by, ignored, and in some cases, completely disposable. Then there's the memo. In 2017, a leaked internal email from Steve Harvey to his staff went viral, and it wasn't pretty. He told employees point blank, "Do not approach me, do not speak to me in hallways, in makeup rooms, or in dressing areas unless you are invited. I hate being ambushed," it read. "For the good of my personal enjoyment, stay out of my way." To his defenders, it was just a man setting boundaries in a chaotic work environment. To everyone else, it sounded cold, controlling, and completely at odds with the friendly, relatable persona he sold to millions of viewers every morning. How do you reconcile the guy who tells struggling families to trust God and keep pushing with the guy who won't let his own staff make eye contact in the hallway?
The
I don't know, Katt. We might not let you drink anymore the way I mean, we ain't even got.
You mean to tell me if Steve Harvey your favorite comedian, you mean you've been waiting for him to do stand-up for 15 years now? He stopped stand-up because he got in a comedy battle called the Championship of Stand-Up Comedy.
And before we wrap, there's one final detail that ties everything together: Steve Harvey's personal life. Because the same man preaching about integrity and family values on national television has been married 3 times, and each marriage ended or began with a cloud of controversy hanging over it. His second wife, Mary Lee Harvey, didn't just walk away quietly. She released emotional YouTube videos accusing him of leaving her homeless and destitute after their 2005 divorce. Court records show she wasn't literally on the streets. She received properties, financial settlements, and support. But perception is everything. And when a crying ex-wife tells the internet that her famous husband destroyed her life, the facts don't soften the blow. Mary also claimed that Steve was already involved with his current wife, Marjorie, before the divorce papers were even signed. The timeline was suspicious enough to raise eyebrows, and 2 years later, Steve and Marjorie were married in what was packaged as a beautiful redemption love story. But Marjorie came with her own tabloid trail. Reports resurfaced linking her to 2 former partners who were convicted in major cases. One had even been pardoned by President Barack Obama after serving decades behind bars. The speculation wasn't that Marjorie herself was involved in anything illegal, but that Steve's world always seemed to orbit controversy, even when it was wrapped in designer clothes and scripture quotes. For a man whose entire brand relies on moral authority, that's dangerous territory. And yet, every scandal seemed to get rewritten into another chapter of his redemption arc, another motivational book, another sermon about second chances. Here's the thing. Every time someone calls Steve Harvey out, whether it's Mark Curry, Katt Williams, Gary Owen, or one of his ex-wives, he pivots to religion.
He wanted to be the king.
You gonna bring that home.
But he was a man named Bernie, because Bernie would shut that down. People would be in their car when Steve got on stage.
He posts videos quoting scripture about ignoring haters, about staying focused on your blessings, about how people's opinions don't define you. In one clip filmed right after Katt's interview went viral, Harvey stood on the Family Feud stage and told the audience, "You don't have to address your haters." To most viewers, it sounded like a sermon. To the people following this scandal, it sounded like deflection. Because when multiple people from different parts of your life are all saying the same thing, when the stories start to line up across decades, at some point it stops being hate and starts being a pattern. Sources close to Harvey's production teams have whispered for years about how tightly controlled his image is. They say his team would smile in your face, pitch your ideas to producers the next day, and repackage them with Steve's name attached. It's the same playbook Mark Curry accused him of running back in the 90s, only now it's corporate, it's legal, and it's wrapped in production credits and intellectual property clauses. The joke theft allegations stop looking like isolated incidents and start looking like a business model. Build an empire on other people's talent, repackage it as self-made genius, and when anyone complains, call them jealous. To understand how deep this runs, you have to go back to the 90s when Harvey was still grinding on the stand-up circuit with Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hughley. They were marketed as brothers, the original kings of comedy, 4 voices who represented a generation. But insiders say the brotherhood ended the second the cameras stopped rolling. Bernie Mac reportedly never trusted Harvey again after that tour. The rumors about the Ocean's 11 sabotage weren't just gossip. They were backed by people who were in the room, who heard the phone calls, who watched Harvey position himself as the safer, cheaper, more marketable option. And by the time Bernie passed away in 2008, Harvey was already being positioned as the face of black comedy on television, the wholesome king who could cross over into mainstream America without making anyone uncomfortable. Some comics whispered that Harvey's rise was only possible because his loudest rival was gone. Now, years later, Katt Williams is saying it out loud. Steve Harvey didn't just clash with Bernie Mac, he tried to erase him. And with Ed Lover, Bernie's daughter, and countless others backing up that claim, it's getting harder to dismiss as bitterness or jealousy. This is starting to look like a coordinated, decades-long effort to control the narrative, silence the competition, and stay one step ahead of accountability. Mark Curry said it best in his interview with Willie D. This isn't about money. Harvey's worth hundreds of millions. He doesn't need to steal jokes or concepts or careers, but he does it anyway. Why? Curry's answer was simple and devastating. You want to be me. You want my style. That line became a meme overnight, but underneath the humor was a painful truth. What if Steve Harvey's entire empire was built on a hunger to consume the identities of men who had what he didn't? A style, a show, an audience that truly loved them for who they were, not for what they could sell. The backlash isn't just coming from comedians anymore. Former employees, talk show guests, even people adjacent to his world are starting to speak up. The leaked memo is now seen as proof of how far he's drifted from the community that built him. The low pay, the tiny dressing rooms, the refusal to collaborate. It all paints a picture of someone obsessed with control, someone who manages his image like a brand manager, not a friend. And in the social media era, that kind of control only lasts so long. Clips resurface, interviews go viral, old wounds get new audiences. Every controversy circles back to the same instincts. Control the spotlight, silence the opposition, rebrand before the truth settles in. From his talk show to Family Feud to his best-selling books on relationships, Steve Harvey has mastered the art of staying one step ahead. But receipts don't stay buried anymore. Angela Means, the actress who played Felicia in Friday, even went on record saying Steve Harvey will steal a joke and it was blatant. When that many people from that many different circles are all saying the same thing, the narrative starts to crack. So here's the real question. If Steve Harvey's empire was built on borrowed jokes, lifted sitcom concepts, underpaid colleagues, and broken relationships, then what does that say about every motivational speech he's ever given? What does it say about the books he's written on success and faith? Are they blueprints for building a legacy, or are they instructions on how to rewrite history in your favor? The more Harvey dismisses these accusations as hate, the more people dig. The resurfaced clips of Bernie Mac hinting at betrayal, Mark Curry's 1999 Halloween set sitting side by side with Harvey's 2015 version, Gary Owen recounting that cramped dressing room while Harvey collected millions, Katt Williams connecting all the dots on a podcast that racked up 33 million views in weeks. It's all being stitched together by fans into a timeline that looks less like coincidence and more like a decades-long pattern of taking what doesn't belong to you and calling it destiny. And the timing couldn't be worse for Harvey, because the more he quotes scripture and tells people to ignore their haters, the more those haters start sounding like witnesses. What began as isolated complaints now reads like a dossier. Joke theft, underpaid talent, broken promises, a trail of colleagues who say they were cut out the moment they stopped serving his image. Even the language in that leaked memo, "for the good of my personal enjoyment," has become a symbol of how far he's drifted from the people who made him. It's not about one Halloween joke anymore. It's not about one sitcom or one betrayed friendship. It's about legacy and who really earns it. If Steve Harvey's rise to the top was fueled by stepping on the people around him, then every crown he wears starts to look a little crooked. The real question now isn't whether he'll survive this backlash. It's how many more comedians, how many more ex-wives, how many more former employees are waiting in the wings with their own receipts, ready to finally tell their side of the story. So, what do you think? Has Steve Harvey's spotless image finally met its breaking point? Or will he smooth talk his way out of this one like he always does? Are we watching a self-made mogul get torn down by jealous haters? Or are we finally seeing the truth about how empires get built in Hollywood? Drop a comment and let me know what side you're on, because this story is far from over. If you made it this far, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in this saga. Because in Hollywood, the real punchline is always who gets the last laugh.